Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is Stephanie and today we're going to be looking at Cirque's new Gourmand collection. So this collection features 6 brand new polishes in an assortment of different finishes, and we're also getting some new nail art stickers and nail art charms as well as a nail art tool to go along with it. So I will have some comparisons later in the video and of course my thoughts after that, but for now let's get into the swatches. The first polish is Vanilla Bean, which is a vanilla cream with matte black irregular flecks. So since this one is a lighter shade and I'm using the skinny brush, it's not going to give me the best coverage on the first coat, but you can tell that the base is still really pigmented, where it's a little bit more on the cream side than a Crelly, for example. As you can see, the flecks are pretty sparse and they also vary in size a lot. So I do really appreciate that because I think it just makes it feel a little bit more like vanilla ice cream instead of it being super uniform. So I thought that this would be opaque in 2 coats, but I ended up with a few more light spots than I anticipated. So I had to do a 3rd coat to make this fully opaque. I think if you did use a wide brush and had shorter nails, you could probably get away with 2 coats. It just depends on your application. But even though it was fully opaque, I found that the formula on this one didn't really self-level that well. So you ended up getting these ridges that just kind of stayed there. And at first I thought it was a little annoying, but as long as you use a thicker top coat, it'll help fill in those ridges and just smooth everything out. But if you use a thinner top coat that's a little bit more watery or just thin, I guess, in its formula, it probably wouldn't do much to fill them in. But either way, I think this one's a really cute polish. Next up, we have Ube Jelly, which is a mid-tone purple jelly. So even though I am using a skinny brush for this whole collection and with jelly polishes, which I think definitely would benefit from using a wide brush, I found that this one still applied itself really nicely and evenly, and this definitely has a much better self-leveling type of formula. So as you can see, I can definitely go back and forth fixing the application, and I'm able to get pretty even coverage with each coat. So I didn't love how it looked on the first coat because it just was a little too light and almost grayed out on me, but it does build up nicely in 2 coats where you start to see a little bit more coverage of my nail line, and the color is just so pretty to me. I think it is so flattering, especially for this time of year where it's kind of striking that balance between a dusty, wintry type of purple and a brighter type of spring purple. So I'm really happy about this one. So I decided to do a 3rd coat just to show you how much it builds up. I don't think I was doing particularly thick coats like I tend to do with my swatches. So as you can see here, my nail line is pretty much indistinguishable. I know it's not totally 100% opaque because again, it's a jelly, but I think this one looks great on 3 coats. The next shade we have is Rosewater Jelly, which is a cool tone pink jelly. So I would say that this one leans a little mauve too. I'll have some comparisons soon enough, don't worry. But yeah, I really ended up liking this shade way more than I thought that I would, because as you might know, I'm not the biggest fan of cool tone pinks, and maybe because this one is a jelly, there's just an exception. I think on the first coat, it provides the lightest wash of color, and having that slightly purple leaning mauve tone to it really helps balance out whatever staining I have. So I think this could definitely work really well for me on 1 coat. So as you can see here on the 2nd coat, the color does build up really nicely, and I think it's very even coverage, but still very sheer and translucent. So I wanted to see if it would get any more opaque on a third coat, and it does a little tiny bit, but it's not nearly as full coverage or as buildable as Ube Jelly was, for example. So this to me leans a little bit more like a true jelly, but it does build up very nicely in 3 coats. So I think it is really versatile as a polish, and I just really like this one way more than I thought that I would. So it was just a nice surprise. Up next we have Matcha, and this is described as a dusty chartreuse green cream. So I really don't think I would agree with that description because, first of all, there is nothing dusty about this shade. It is super, super vibrant to me, which honestly I prefer for this time of year. And I also really wouldn't consider this a chartreuse kind of green because, to me at least, chartreuse just has a little bit more yellow in it, because usually I don't like the color chartreuse, but I really like this one. So in my mind, this is more of like a lime green, if anything. Either way, color aside, the formula was absolutely amazing on this one. Very creamy and full coverage, fully opaque for me in 2 coats, and it self-levels really nicely. So I'm definitely excited to use this in nail art for the spring. The next and last jelly in the collection is Saffron Jelly, which is an amber orange kind of color. So I'm really excited about this one because we just rarely see orange jellies, and I think this one was so needed in Cirque's lineup. So the first coat here gave me pretty even coverage, but I just don't love how it looks on me because I think of that amber tone. It just reminds me of really badly stained nails, and I just don't really find that flattering. So on 2 coats, I think it does look a lot more wearable. It builds up very nicely and again has very even coverage that self-levels really nice, but you still see through to your nail line. So it's definitely going to have a very squishy kind of look. But I ended up doing 3 coats, and I feel like it's a lot more similar to Ube Jelly and how buildable that one was, where it's just ever so slightly on the crelly side, where you just don't really see that much of your nail line. So personally, I would wear this in 3 coats, but I still think it looks good in 2, and I'm just so excited to wear this in the summertime. And rounding out the collection is Lost Berry, which is a trithermal that shifts from this burgundy red when cold to bright red to hot pink when warm. And there's holographic sparkle added in as well. But I don't think I would agree with the color descriptions that Cirque gave for this one. I personally would call this more of a reddish mulberry when it's cold, which is the color you saw in the bottle or on the neck of the brush here. And then it shifts to a corally hot pink as that middle state. And then when it's warm, which is the color you see closer to my cuticle, it's like a medium pink. So the first coat is pretty sheer, not exactly a jelly, but more of a crelly type of finish. But I did get really good coverage on the second coat, where I think most people could get away with just 2 coats. And I was really surprised to see how this transitioned. I've never used a trithermal before, so I wasn't really sure how it was going to look exactly. But as you can see, I was definitely running really warm when I was swatching. So the majority of my nail is more of that medium pink kind of color, but you see that hot pink and then that darker shade at the tips of my nail. So I did end up doing a 3rd coat just to see if that would deepen the colors a little bit more. And I don't think it did. Maybe if you had longer nails, you would need a 3rd coat, but generally 2 coats I think is fine for this one. So I absolutely love how this shade looks. Here it is next to the bottle. You can see that it dries down a little bit matte, but nothing that top coat doesn't help. So we also have the new Gourmand nail art stickers launching alongside the polishes, and it's this little sheet filled with super cute food themed stickers. I don't know exactly how many stickers you're getting here, but I would say it's a pretty decent amount. My only complaint is that there's just 2 of each for the majority of them. The only things that repeat are the strawberries and the latte designs, but they're still really cute. We also have the new What the Pluck tweezers to pair with the stickers. One side has this rubber stopper kind of thing, and the other side is the actual tweezer part. But oh my god, fair warning, these are sharp. They come to an extreme point, which is great for lifting nail art stickers or using charms, but as you can see, it pierced through the rubber cap, so just be careful. And the last new product are these confectionery charms, which are basically sprinkle-inspired caviar beads. They are completely spherical and are made of glass, so you can see right through them, which I think makes them look so pretty. They come in an assortment of colors, including white, blue, green, red, and purple, and I think they're so cute. Now moving on to comparisons, I wanted to show Vanilla Bean next to Linen, which is Cirque's off-white sheer polish. So you can see just how yellow Vanilla Bean leans. And here is OPI's Funny Bunny, which is more of a true white compared to all of these. So I thought it would be fun to sort of recreate Vanilla Bean, and I started by using Lemon Blossom from Olive Ave, which is this very, very pastel yellow cream. And then I layered Cirque's Spotted on top of that because I figured more people might have Spotted. And as you can see, it's definitely a lot more packed with those black flecks, so it's not as sparse as Vanilla Bean is. And then I decided to layer Cirque's Linen over top of that to kind of soften the look a little bit. And I think if anything, it reminds me more of cookies and cream than vanilla ice cream. But yeah, I thought it was a fun little side by side. Next up for Ube Jelly, I really wanted to show this next to Haze Jelly because I just thought that they were going to be so much more similar, but as you can see, Haze is definitely more on the gray side. And here it is next to Lavender Sky, which is brighter, but a lot more pinky leaning than Ube Jelly. Then for Rosewater Jelly, I obviously had to show it next to Rose Jelly, and I was so surprised to see how different these are because I was so convinced that these were going to be even closer to dupes than the last shades. Rose is definitely more peachy, but here it is next to Peach Jelly. So you can see the subtle differences in each of them. They are definitely not dupes. And as I mentioned, Rosewater to me leans a little bit mauve, like there's a slight purple tone to it. So I also wanted to show Lavender Sky next to Rosewater Jelly. And again, it's just these beautiful steps in variation. So on the nail, I decided to just compare Rosewater and Rose Jelly. They're definitely not dupes. You can see Rose is just a lot more of that warmer, peachy tone and just a little bit more opaque. Next up for Matcha, I wanted to compare this to Cirque's Sticky Icky because to me, this is much more of a true chartreuse green kind of cream. So as you can see, they definitely are very similar, but Sticky Icky is a little bit brighter and more yellow leaning. The only other remotely close shade that I had was Mooncat's Neverland, which is a bright green cream, but this one is a little bit more subdued pastel and very white leaning as far as the base goes. So yeah, here on the nail, you can see the differences in all of them, mainly between Sticky Icky and Matcha, where they're definitely not dupes. So I definitely don't have another orange jelly in my collection, but I still wanted to show Saffron Jelly next to Olive Ave Pumpkin because it's the closest that I have color-wise to a comparison. But I would say that Pumpkin leans a little bit more yellow, so there's just more warmth to Saffron Jelly. And I definitely don't have anything like Lost Berry in my collection, but I still wanted to show this next to Berry Jelly just to kind of show how deep the base is, and it's very red leaning. And I thought that it would kind of maybe be helpful to see it next to Wild Berry West because the colors are kind of similar, but the formulas are totally different. As you can see, Wild Berry West in the bottle is just very glassy, very much a jelly polish and not a thermal. And that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for Cirque's new Gourmand collection. As always, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this release, because if you couldn't tell, I am pretty excited about these. I think they're just such a cute lineup for this early spring time that we're in, and I just love the cute food theme and inspiration behind them. They did such a great job interpreting those inspirations into the polishes, in my opinion. So I'm excited about them, but I know that I'm also a little biased because I love jelly polishes and I just can't get enough of them. And so many people have said it in the comments that they're just over Cirque releasing jellies. So I know this collection could go either way for a lot of you. So let me know any and all thoughts that you have down below in the comments so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.